I'm not going to be impressed that you can grab your ankles and pull your face between your shins. Who cares? That's not going to help with anything at all. Zero. It's not going to help with anything.
Welcome to the Wellness Amazon podcast, where we talk about everything body, mind, and spirit, health and wellness. No subject is taboo here, and we have fun peeling back all the layers. Let's do this. Welcome, everybody, to a new Wellness Amazon podcast episode. You might know this guy over here because he has been on the show before twice. This is his third time because he's just that good. And that's why we need to have him again. And today we're actually going to talk about your super specialty because we talked about Qigong, we talked about breathing. Today we're going to talk about yoga. But
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, not just any yoga. We're talking about functional yoga. In my opinion, the GOAT of yoga. Not goat yoga. No, the greatest of all time yoga. So welcome to the show, Brian Friedman.
Thank you. I should ask you, why do you think it's the GOAT yoga? The GOAT of yoga, not goat yoga with the animals crawling on you. Why do you think that it's the GOAT of yoga?
Well, easy. It changed my life for the better. To keep it in a nutshell, traditional yoga hurt me over time and probably had some lasting damages. And then your yoga style did the opposite. It reversed living in pain. And I do believe to this day that your style of yoga is the reason that I do not have a second fake hip. Because I've had hip replacement, somebody that doesn't know, on the left side, and the right side started acting up. And long and behold, functional yoga made me pain-free.
Amazing.
Makes you wonder if that first hip was necessary. So,
well, it's okay. We can't go backwards.
Nope.
We can only go forward, and that's amazing. It's an amazing share. So thank you for that. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, who are you, Brian? What do you do?
Well, my name is Brian. I am the co-owner and co-founder of Redefined Yoga. Redefined Yoga is our website, and we offer online yoga. We have two tiers of service. One is called On Demand, and the other is called VIP. Both are month to month, and it just depends on the level of service that you may or may not need, or maybe even budgeting. They're both affordable. It's just whatever you need. On Demand is a little more for people who they're set. They just need to do the yoga. They're fine. They're disciplined. They don't need accountability. Great. On Demand's perfect for you. If, like most people, you just need a little bit of accountability, you want more of a sense of community, you need a little more, I don't know if couture is the right word, or concierge, then you join VIP, and we're there every step of the way to help you.
Yeah. I'm definitely one of those people that needs the accountability. So
a lot of people do. A lot of people do. And that's fine. And that's what we're here for. And, sometimes, people have special requests and they've got specific questions. And under the VIP realm, you have access to me and my beautiful wife directly. So if you have questions specifically about shoulders or neck, or Karen, my wife, she's, believe me, she knows her stuff when it comes to yoga as well.
Yeah.
But her wheelhouse is a little bit more towards nutrition, and specifically women's nutrition when it comes to hormonal imbalances and things of this nature. I know you've been trying to get her onto the podcast for a little while. Her story is amazing, and it's similar to my story in that, for me, I had to become my own advocate in order to get rid of my issues, but it was more in the physical, mechanical realm. Karen had to be her own advocate to help overcome her issues in the hormonal realm with Hashimoto's and, just being premenopausal, etc. So I don't want to tell her story. That's not for me to tell, but just similar in scope. We both had to find our way to get out from under, I guess. And so she's an expert at
Yeah.
this stuff now, and I'm an expert at this stuff now too, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, most of the time it's like this, right? We have to have our own journeys and
Hmm.
our own quote unquote suffering to find what works, and then we can
Correct.
promote that and help other people.
My friend said, suffering is the greatest teacher.
Yep.
I never understood it at first, but I believe that's correct. The thing is that you need a guide, though.
Yeah.
And this is where I come in, and this is where Karen can come in, is you still need someone who's been there to help you through.
Hmm.
I believe you do.
Yeah.
And I had help along the way, directly and indirectly from mentors, and I know Karen did too. Amazing.
And I know we're going to get into your story
Sure.
too. And before we get into the nitty gritty, when we talk about functional yoga,
Hmm.
what is that? When people hear that, they're like, "Oh, I've never heard of it."
Okay. Well, I'll do my best to explain. And just for the sake of, I guess, clarity and intellectual property and that sort of thing, I call my method of yoga functional yoga instruction,
Hmm.
FYI, because functional yoga, although it's not super popular, is kind of an umbrella term
Hmm.
for something functional. And it makes me laugh because it reminds me of like, I'm old, so I'm 57 years old. And I grew up in the era when disco was really popular.
Hmm.
And so disco became popular and marketers figured that out. So they just put disco on every label for everything, right? It's like, I'm making it up, but like disco peanut
Right.
butter
Yeah.
and disco chocolate milk. So it was still just chocolate milk. It just had disco on front of it
Mhm.
or whatever it was, disco pants and disco shoes. So that's kind of what has happened in the realm when we use the word functional. Functional became an adjective that most people just stick in front of something else. Functional fitness, functional yoga, functional whatever. That's why I try to differentiate functional yoga instruction, because we use the yoga to instruct our functionality. So I can't really address functional yoga per se, but I can address my method, functional yoga instruction. So what is it? It is a safe, sane, and pragmatic way to get the benefits of yoga compared to other methods of yoga that are probably less safe. They may or may not be just as sane, but they're definitely not as pragmatic.
Mhm.
And I'll do my best to explain. When I was coming up, when I was coming up through the yoga ranks, I didn't know any better. I would show up to class. I would do what I was told. But there was a belief. It wasn't even implied. It was
Mhm.
stated. You will get better if you do this. It was a claim.
Mhm.
Your back will get better if you do this. Okay. So I did everything. I did everything I was told. I did it in a hot room. I did it with people standing on my back. I did it being pushed further into stretches. I did everything I was supposed to do. The problem was I was getting worse and worse and worse. And it was disheartening because the claim was, and you can do a Google
Mhm.
search right now, is yoga good for your back? And you'll probably just get a resounding yes, because it's based on 2 or 3 studies with very, very specific parameters and maybe a 51% success outcome. So people will, like we said earlier, suffering's the greatest teacher. So someone's suffering, they go to Google, yoga's good for my back, and they go to a yoga studio because yoga is good for their back. Problem is, yoga was not good for my back. It was making it worse.
Mhm.
So I had to step out of that, because what is the quote? If you do the same thing over and over again, but expect a different result, it's insanity. So I had to step back, and I got completely as far removed from the yoga world as humanly possible. Now, this was back, we'll have to count how many times I say back then, back in 2000, back in those days. So this was back in the early 21st century. For me, at least, the internet was in its infancy.
Mm.
I'm not sure if YouTube even existed then. So I had to rely on myself more. I couldn't just type in, couldn't go to YouTube, type in yoga and get a million videos. So it was felt like it was up to me. So I got as far removed from yoga as I possibly could because that promise had been broken to me. Then I would just think, well, who's not getting hurt doing what? And I looked at strength athletes, powerlifters, guys and girls who would have a big barbell on the ground, send their hips back, grab that barbell, stand up, put the barbell down, and walk away. Now, how come they didn't hold on to their spine and writhe in agony the way some yoga students would? Like just a body weight toe touch could be enough to trigger someone into spasm or whatever. Yet here is a power lifter picking up 500 pounds off the ground. Why? Alignment and muscles. They're set up, they have their alignment is correct, and they're using their muscles. They're not relying on flexibility. They're not relying on a hot broom. They're not relying on someone to stand on their back or push them or bend them into position. They're lined up. They're using their brain to power their muscles to stand up under load. And when I saw that and really started thinking about that, this is all in my mind. I know I'm saying like saw and stuff. It wasn't like I watched a documentary, but it's just all in my mind or with little simple stick figures when I was sitting at my dining room table. I looked at my practice. I said, well, what am I doing? Well, I'm bending and holding, destabilizing, and using kind of like momentum to get out of a position. I'm not really using my muscles in an aligned way to get into, hold, and get out of a position. Does that make sense? So I stripped everything down, whatever, for whatever it's worth. I had a very, quote, advanced, end quote, practice. If Instagram was around back in those days, I probably had a lot of followers and a lot of pats on the back because I could, levitate to a handstand and float through and jump back and do all the really cool looking stuff, but it wasn't helping. That was the thing. The whole reason why I got into yoga was for the benefits of yoga, and I wasn't benefiting. So once I stripped my practice down and just focused solely on the fundamentals, all of a sudden my back pain, I don't want to say overnight because that's hyperbolic, but it wasn't too long, maybe a few weeks or months. Suddenly my back pain, it went from like an 8 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10. It became very manageable. It became like and it gave me hope for the first time. I was like, oh, something's actually working now. So taking those principles and applying them to a lot of postures in the yoga realm helped to make them functional. They were actually serving a purpose. The way we do triangle pose in functional yoga instruction, it serves a purpose. You're learning to stabilize your core and you're learning how to move through your hips, even though you find yourself in an awkward position. You're keeping your shoulders in the sockets and you're using your muscles to hold things together while gravity and positioning is trying to pull you apart, kind of. So you're building strength and resilience and functional ability so that when you get off of the yoga mat, you find yourself in a weird position at the grocery store, to brace, shift, shoulder down, grab those grapes, bring them back to your cart, stick them in the cart, and then push, right?
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question. That was a long answer.
Yeah, no, it does. Because, the difference between yoga and functional yoga instruction is just, that's what I feel it is, that static strength training almost and still becoming flexible without the bendiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this now even on Instagram, and I think that's actually a huge problem. Is the whole social media thing, because yoga, oh, it looks so cool. It looks so cool. People are trying to look cool. But everybody I know who can do the super bendy stuff is now starting to incorporate strength training,
Mm-hmm.
weight training, all of these things, because of stability needs to be there if you want to be that bendy. Just being bendy is not stability. So I think there's people, like we just said, everybody has their own journey and everybody needs to make their own experiences, right? But I think more people are having that experience, that if you just do yoga in the traditional sense,
Mm-hmm.
the traditional bendy, cool stuff, it's not for the long haul.
Yes. So there are two things worth mentioning, and that's a very great observation that you shared. One is to not live in extremes.
Uh-huh.
And I've interviewed strength coaches on my own YouTube channel. I've interviewed strength coaches, and they said they wish that the yoga people would get to the weight room and the weight room people would get to yoga.
Mhm.
Because I know I said it a second ago, if you're just only doing yoga in a traditional way, and also, by the way, even in the realm of functional yoga instruction, we have safe strength so that
Mhm.
we're addressing the strength issue. You've mentioned it before. We practice Qigong, so that helps to balance everything out. Qigong is just slow motion breathing, slow motion movement, so it helps soothe the nervous system. So in Redefined Yoga, we take a balanced approach. I can't say never, but I don't think I've ever recommended to any of my students ever only do this.
Mhm.
Only. I can't imagine that I've ever said that. You might begin with something so you might begin with beginner's yoga to get your fundamentals and your foundations. And then once your abilities improve from that, then beginners and safe strength, and then beginners and safe strength and Qigong, and you just gradually build. So the goal is not to live in extremes. And the way we get there is through cross training,
Mhm.
not CrossFit, but cross training.
Yeah.
And this falls under the realm of general physical preparedness, GPP, general physical preparedness.
Mhm.
And this is where most of us should be. Unless you're an elite athlete or someone who absolutely has to be super bendy because it's your profession, if you're a circus performer or something. But most of us should be able to walk, jog, swim, do some yoga, lift some weights, like just general stuff
Mhm.
so that we're well-rounded, not an expert in the deadlift and only an expert in the deadlift.
Right. Yeah. When it all translates into everyday living too, because I'm a huge fan of how can I be closer to nature and be closer to what a human being, in terms of like maybe cavemen, is actually supposed to do, right? And it was very playful when we were in that stage. Our bodies, we didn't change much, but our circumstances and our lifestyle changed dramatically. And if
Mm-hmm.
you look at, the Winter Olympics are coming up, and these athletes that are performing, they just, a ski champion doesn't just ski on their time. They
Mm-hmm.
are skiing, and then they go and run, and then they go into the weight room and they do all the things, and not just skiing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, it needs to be versatile. That's why I love your program, how you structure it, because you already are hitting almost everything besides walking. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if I do your program and I go on a walk afterwards, I'm good. I feel like I'm good.
Yeah, excellent.
And especially for somebody who does have very unstable joints, it is safe and I don't have to take out 2 weeks because I injured myself.
Right. Yeah. That's good to
So,
hear. It's not good to hear about your condition. It's good to
right.
hear that the functional yoga instruction, that redefined yoga is helping. That's the goal. That's been our goal since day one is to help. The problem with the yoga realm, and you mentioned it earlier,
Mm-hmm.
is the visual most people have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that one of my friends talked about. He said proper training, if you're training properly, whether it's weights, whether it's yoga, it's boring. It looks boring,
Hmm.
right? But what happens, you go on to Instagram or something, or whatever the platform is, and someone's doing yoga and they're just flowing and they put their hands on their heart and they're flowing and they're moving around nonstop. And it may look, quote, sexy, end quote, but it's not really doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I mean, and it's, I know it depends on your goal. So if your goal is to practice choreographed aerobics in a hot room and that brings you joy, by all means, do it. And that's fine. And you can track it on your watch or whatever. And it's great. And you can post on Instagram how hot and sweaty you got. And that's great. But if your goal is to help reverse damage brought on by repetitive stress syndrome type things, or you're just
Mm-hmm.
a little bit beat up because you're a little bit older, we don't have to, we should do the things that help. And what helps that is what you just talked about a second ago, it's more of a stillness type of practice
Mm-hmm.
where you hold poses. For example, whereas maybe in a conventional yoga class, and this presumes your audience even knows the names of the poses. I'm not trying to be presumptuous, but in a traditional class, you may just go from triangle to side angle to reverse triangle to warrior two, switch sides, put a push up in between, and do the same thing on the other side. You're just moving around. You're just constantly moving. That's not helping things in the context of trying to fix your shoulder or trying to stabilize your back or trying to fix your knees. We have to hold our positions. This is something Iyengar was renowned for. I wish I had known about him sooner because I probably would have saved a lot more time. But if you've ever watched, just Google something like Iyengar teaching triangle or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those folks will hold one position, one side for minutes at a time. And just really focus deep inward. Get the shoulders right, get the legs right, get the hips right. It's not fun
Mm-hmm.
and it's not exciting to watch, but the outcome, that focus, like you really start to understand how your body works, and you get that mind body connection,
Yeah.
which is what yoga is supposed to be, mind body. And when we do these poses longer, more deliberate, step by step, add that strength component that we talked about, for me and for a lot of people, it has helped to stop, slow down, and reverse a lot of issues. I try my best not to make any claims. I don't want to be on your podcast and say Redefined Yoga is going to fix your back pain. I will say we do have a good track record with
Yeah.
slowing down, stopping, and reversing things.
Yeah. I'm going to make a claim it did mine. So,
Well,
I can
thank
say
you.
that.
Yeah, and it did mine too. That's why I wanted to spread the word. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a fluke, that it wasn't just me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I started teaching. I started to teach it more and more with whichever students I had at the time. And it was interesting because I didn't mean for it to be divisive, but it was very divisive
Yeah.
because people back in those days when I was teaching in other studios and stuff, people came to class expecting the traditional
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and they came to my class, and now it's like, wait a second, we're going pose by pose, 5 to 10 breaths at a time, getting it set up correctly and holding it. A lot of people don't like that. They just want
Yeah.
to They want to burn through. They just want to get in there, get out, and move around. That's fine, but you're not going to find that at Redefined Yoga.
Yeah. Slow and controlled.
Slow, slow and steady.
Mm-hmm.
The long game. And the reason why is because, at least in my opinion, what I found, it's the correctness, not
Mm-hmm.
perfection. I mean, we've got students who are missing limbs. We've got students who they're recovering from an accident from 50 years ago, and now their
Mm-hmm.
hips are mal-shaped. So it's not perfection, but it's correctness. How correct can we get this structure? And now can we get the muscles to contract in these shapes to bring balance to the function? So if someone's quad dominant, the fronts of their legs are really big, or they work really well, but the backs of their legs are shut down.
Mm.
We have to fix that. And that's what the functional yoga instruction will start to do, because it puts demands on your body where it has to start to balance itself out, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does. And you said earlier something that I wanted to comment on, that you don't believe that you ever went and said you have to do XYZ. I think your most used sentence in class is if you can. And I
That's true.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And everybody appreciates that, because sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
You just, or you can't yet.
Yeah.
And then pushing that into pain, which I feel, I don't want to shoot traditional yoga down, either. But what I have experienced with traditional yoga is that usually isn't verbalized as an option. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah.
Where we're going to go now into triangle, and your hand's going to down at least to your ankle, maybe, or whatever it is, right? And if you can't do it, you're in a class full of people that most of these people can. This is it's a bit of, I don't want to say peer pressure, but you do feel kind of a little weird when you can't do it, and you might push yourself to pain. But if someone says, hey, if you can, your hand can go on your thigh, on your knee, on your ankle, on the floor. It depends on your level. And then out of a sudden, just having that option
Mm-hmm.
gives you a sense of it's okay
Amazing.
that you are where you are.
Amazing. And it's so incredible that you bring that up, because two things. One, thank you for bringing that up. And two, it just reminds me of a time a long, 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 long time ago. I was doing a workshop in Louisiana, and one of the men of the workshop came up to me. Yeah, and he was being very nice. He said that was a great workshop. But he said the same thing. He said, this is the first time I've ever heard a yoga teacher say, if you can.
Mm.
And he said the same thing. It took a lot of pressure off of him to not have his legs locked straight and to not try to reach past his toes. And that comes from my experience coming up through the yoga ranks. And I would take notes in my brain, like, never do this, never do that,
Mm-hmm.
never do this, never do that. And I remember taking a beginner's class or something like that. No, keep in mind, beginners.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking a beginner's class to kind of take a break for myself, because I was living in extremes back then. I was doing handstands every chance I could. I was trying to push past my toes every chance I could. Everything extreme I was doing. So I was like, you know what? Let me take a beginner's class and just kind of take it down a notch so I can recover a little bit. Which, as an aside, I would encourage all of your listeners to do. To, no matter what you're doing, take a break every now and then. We don't always have to go, 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 go. Sometimes we need to take a couple of steps back to recover so we can keep
Mm-hmm.
going. So please cycle in some breaks every now and then. And this was a beginner's class. And I was shocked at the level that they were asking these beginners to perform. And to your point, I mean, they were saying, you know, straighten your leg, straighten your arm. No, arm this way, lock your knees. And I just remember thinking, wow, when I start teaching, I will never say any of this stuff ever,
Yeah.
because there were people in that class, you know, through no fault of their own, probably never in a billion years would they be able to do what they were asked to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be 3 or 4 people who either wind up hurting themselves or they just throw their arms up and say, well, I can't do yoga. I tried. I went
Yeah.
to a beginner's class,
Yeah.
and I couldn't succeed. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that comes from, it comes from a couple of different things. One, the differentiator of an instructor and a teacher. Do you know the difference between an instructor and a teacher?
No.
Okay, that's fine. It's fair, because a lot of times it's interchangeable, and I appreciate the honesty. So, and I didn't think about this much until a student said to me, "You're a great teacher." I said, "What does that mean?" And she said, "An instructor essentially repeats what they've learned,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe an instructor repeats what they can do, but a teacher teaches the class.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave the class, you're, I don't want to say smarter, but like you understand more. Like you just didn't go and get yelled at. You leave and you go, huh, okay, I guess I have to keep my knees soft in order to move my spine. I guess I
Yeah.
need to keep breathing so I don't black out. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you have people who have gravitated to yoga one way or another. And it's usually someone who has a dancing background or a gymnast background, something along those lines, male or female. The dancing or the gymnastics got too tough. They found yoga, let's say like in their 20s. So it means from age 5 through age 20, they've had stretching experience, exercise experience. And so by the time they're 20 and instructing yoga, for them it's easy. Come on, guys. You can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. Look, I'm going to touch my toes right now. You can do it. So they wind up becoming cheerleaders instead of being of service to the people that are in front of them. Teachers should be of service. You
Mm-hmm.
should look at the room, try to make an assessment, give a couple of basic poses, see how people are responding, and then build or not build. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you should be saying things like, try this, no pressure, things of that nature, instead of, you absolutely can bend your knees to 90 degrees, even though you've had a total knee replacement and still haven't recovered. You can,
Right.
because yoga is magical. Look what it did for me.
Mm-hmm.
Incorrect. Incorrect.
Yeah. And I think the when we look at these, like the image,
Mm-hmm.
right, that we are getting painted, that everybody, it's like what you said, when you say yoga, people think of that super bendy, looks great, looks aesthetically pleasing. It became a little bit of a competition. Who
Yes,
can be more bendy and who can make the
correct.
crazy stuff? And, when you're talking about the people that flow in their videos, I look at that now and my knees hurt just looking at it, right? Because it's like there's no stability here. It's just flowing and not, where is like you said, the contraction and the just making sure you're actually doing it right. You got to breathe through a little bit through a pose to make sure you're actually done there. And what, what we always do, what I always do when I do yoga with your program is, while I'm in the pose, I have the chance to correct because we are taking our time in that pose. So
Correct.
are my knees bent the same equal amount? Where am I toes pointing, where are my shoulders? Are my shoulders down? Are they back? Chest out, all of that stuff. Am I bending my back, or is it straight? Do I
Correct.
really bend out of all of these things? And by the time I get to my head, I probably have to start back up with the toes because something moved somewhere, And it's this constant checkpoint. That's why mountain pose, I always tell people, if you do mountain pose and you're not shaking by the end of it, you're not doing it right. It's not a resting position, so to speak,
No.
I have never been in a yoga studio where somebody would go through every joint and stack it up and then go back down and every joint and stack it back up and make sure that you are not losing that correctness in one of the joints. So what you're doing it's phenomenal to me because this is what people need. We need to have that constant reminder of, you have an ankle. Did you check your ankles? Did you check your neck? Did you check your hands? Things like this. And out of personal experience, I did granted, it was an online beginner's class. This is 2013. I still remember that. We just moved to Florida. We lived in the middle of nowhere. So there was nothing for me to do. I had to go online. And in this beginner's yoga series, so I got an email a day with a video per day. I think the second video, it was crow's pose.
Oh, yeah.
How? For a beginner. And that's when I got hurt. I hurt myself.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't even my arms. I pulled a leg muscle, which who knows how I did that. But that was not a beginner's pose at all. I now know that, right? But back then I thought, I'm supposed to be able to do that?
Right.
That's okay. Well, here we go. And I don't understand the thought concept of people that instruct that way. I really don't.
Well, it could be what we were talking about earlier. I can do it. You should be able to do it. So that's, in my opinion, that's not a teacher, right? If you went to school to study quantum physics, clearly the teacher is there to teach you because they can do it. Could you imagine a teacher just expecting you to know quantum physics? You walked into their classroom. No, like that's their function, is to teach you.
Right.
Or go into a piano class and the teacher just crosses their arms and says, well, I can play Ronda alla Turca from Mozart. You should be able to too. Your student doesn't even know how to place their hand, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with crow pose. My goodness, that's in gymnastics, I think they call it a tuck planche, but it's a hand balance. 2 hands on the ground and you're curled up into a ball trying to hold this position. A beginner, mind you.
That's crazy.
I was speaking to someone. I was being interviewed on a radio show, and they were talking about their experience with conventional yoga. And they were talking about they were just confused. They walked into the room, and they weren't like yelled at, but they were just being told to do things. And they didn't know triangle from side angle.
Yeah.
They didn't know mountain from tree. They weren't taught.
And sometimes it's in Sanskrit too.
Oh, Lord have mercy. That happened to me once. I went to, this happened to me a bunch of times, I should say. But I went to a hot yoga class once, and it was all in Sanskrit. And at the time, just in the context of yoga, I was pretty good at figuring out what they meant, And I remember, they're calling all this stuff out. I picked my head up to look around. No one was doing it. No one knew what to do. But the instructor just kept rattling on in Sanskrit until eventually someone in class figured out, oh, that must be this one. And then people started practicing again. But that was one of those moments. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I will never call out a pose in Sanskrit. Never. Unless I explain it first, right? I mean,
right.
My goodness. Yeah. So I learned a lot from my yoga experience, and I try to not not make those mistakes.
Yeah. When you switched from, because it sounds like you had quite a while in the traditional yoga scene, let's just call it that, right? What is like the main thing that you would say you had to unlearn? Because I figure that that's also hard, right? If you've done it for that long, that you have to unlearn those things.
Well, I understand the question, and I'll do my best to answer. And I think you know me well enough that I can be really, I guess, divisive when I don't know if the right word is like binary or or for me, once something is clear, that's it.
Uh-huh.
I don't get sentimental or emotional about things. I might be a little bit upset because I felt like I got fooled or something. And that's kind of how I felt it's kind of like when you learn, spoiler alert for your audience, spoiler alert. It's kind of like when you learn Santa Claus isn't real. It takes a step back. You're like, huh. In all these years, I thought that if I could do this, I would get that. And I had this relationship of reciprocity with Santa Claus. It was just all BS the
Right.
whole time. But then hopefully you just kind of get over it and move on.
Uh-huh.
So that's what it was like for me. I had been seriously into yoga probably around 2003, and it was probably 3 or so years in that. It was more than that. It was probably like around 2006, 2007. So 3 or 4 years of really following the rules. And if your audience isn't familiar with rules and stuff like that. So, for example, I was studying a method of yoga that was called Ashtanga yoga.
Uh-huh.
Ashtanga yoga is where all of the flow, vinyasa, power flow, vinyasa, flow, power flow. So you just take those three words and permutate them, and there you go. So all these flow and power type classes came from Ashtanga.
Mm.
But when you're studying Ashtanga, you have to follow rules or else you get no benefit, right? It's like, oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not benefiting from my practice because I practiced on Sunday. That's what it is. I practiced on Sunday, no benefit. That's what happened. Or I didn't do the vinyasa sequence count correctly. This pose is 7 vinyasa. I did 6 vinyasa. That's why I don't get benefit. Oh, so there are all these like really weird, arbitrary rules. And one of the rules, it's still maybe, I'm not sure, but one of the rules was if you don't practice the way it's being practiced in India at that moment, you're practicing wrong. So you may have learned, A, B, C, D, E. Well, now the way it's being taught in India is A, C, B, E, D. They just change
Mm-hmm.
things around a little bit. So if you're not practicing the current way, you're wrong, no benefit. So when I started learning all this stuff, I thought, wow, I don't know if I'm allowed to use an adult word on this podcast, but this is BS.
Yeah.
This is completely fake and totally arbitrary. It's just made up. None of it makes sense. If you ask one Ashtanga teacher, they say it's completely fine to practice if a woman is menstruating. Another teacher says, no, absolutely not. You must forego it. One teacher says this, one teacher says that. And I said to myself, there are supposed to be rules, but no one's following any of the rules. So this is just all BS. And once I had that clarity, I was fine. Like I just moved on and I found functional yoga instruction.
Yeah.
Pragmatic, clear. There's no mystery. If you try one of our classes online, there's no mystery. You know what's coming. You know how to do it. We do it, and then we move on to the next pose. And there are no hard and fast rules, right? You've probably heard me say it a million times. We used to do it this way,
Mm-hmm.
but now we're doing it this way because we found a better way to protect the
Yeah.
knee. So let's try it this way. Yeah. I hope that answered your question. I might have gone off the rails a little bit there.
It does. It does. And it's every time I personally follow someone in the nutrition realm or you with, movement or whatnot, it needs to be, I very much appreciate that when somebody changes over time because they figure out, oh, this is actually better.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many people out there, they are so stuck in their ways because they feel like they can't be wrong. So they will do this even though they feel like garbage. They will
Right.
die on that hill. They
Yes.
will do that. This is the, and then there's other people in the realm that say, yeah, you know what? 20 years ago, I taught you that you can't eat this. And now I'm like, I was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate that. And, especially when we do that sometimes, I have to then unlearn things too, because I have been with you for a decade almost.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I just said that. Yeah. Yeah. 2015, maybe 14. I don't know. That it's been like this for a long time. And now you will say, hey, you do not have to correct your hips in that stance. Just leave them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, oh, I can do that. This is so much better.
Right.
And, you explaining why, which is another big thing. I thrive on knowing why. When I know that, then it's much easier for me to practice. And a lot of teachers or instructors, they don't do that. You never know why something has a function, why something needs to be done that way. I mean, it's rigid, too rigid then. And then we can't get things better if we're stuck on these things too. It never evolves.
It gets weird and cult-like is
Mm-hmm.
what happens. But I
Mm-hmm.
understand the mentality because it just everything is easy. If I
Mm-hmm.
just do it this way, I'm right, everyone else is wrong, and this is the way, and this is how you do it, and it's just easy. It's not easy when I may or may not be right, but this is helping. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like you said with nutrition, just with anything, it's a principle. Imagine if we didn't update our science, we're still sticking to salt is evil. Well, salt is not evil. Turns out that,
Mm-hmm.
we need a little bit of salt in our diet. And it turns out that sugar is not so great.
Right.
And then something will evolve and then we have to evolve with it or not. Or we just get stuck.
Yeah.
But you were talking about people dying on a hill and whatnot. And that was another part of the, I guess, pulling the curtain back on yoga was, not only like all of the arbitrary rules that really don't matter at all. There were a lot of people in that realm who either had surgeries or were about to have surgery who quit practicing altogether. Although they kept teaching, they would still have the workshops and the certifications and the books. They didn't teach anymore. Excuse me. They didn't practice anymore, but they'd still keep teaching. But they wouldn't share that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Even in these days, yoga people are getting injured and stuff. The only person who's ever spoken about it openly, a yoga teacher named Jill Miller. And she explained she had to get her maybe one hip replaced because she was hyper flexible. She was just too doggone flexible, had to get her hip replaced. And she talked about it openly. She showed her scars and she talked about it. And there are other yoga teachers who did not. Hamstring injuries, things of that nature. Posts would mysteriously disappear because they have
Mm.
something to sell. I'm not
Yeah.
passing judgment on them, but
Right.
their business relies solely on if you do yoga this way, you will benefit. Even though I tore my hamstring and I'm hiding it from you, you still need to buy my course and
Yeah.
you still got to buy my
Yeah.
books and come to my workshops, even though I'm a torn up wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
stuff like that wasn't me necessarily unlearning things. It was me just getting clearer and clearer and clearer, if that makes sense.
And it takes a lot to do that. I want to make sure we honor that because it takes courage. And as someone who suffers tremendously from imposter syndrome, I very much understand the people that are hiding their injuries. I can makes me
Yeah.
cringe. I can understand that because you go think that way. Well, if people know that I injured myself, what are they going to think of me? They're going to think this what I'm doing isn't working. Instead of thinking, why did I injure myself in the first place? Maybe
Right.
I should,
Right.
think about that. Yeah.
Well, you've heard me in class, like I said, I'm a little stiff today, or I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what I did, but my, my shoulder's out today, so I'm going to take it easy. You can go further if you want, but I'm keeping my arm down or something. It's just human. We're
Yeah.
humans, and there's this thing called life,
Yeah.
and stuff happens. I mean, even to me, the functional yoga guy, I might find myself in a position and tweak my low back because I picked up the groceries wrong.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
The good news is that I'll recover quicker, learn the
Yeah.
lesson, and not pick up those groceries like that again if I can help it.
Yeah. But I think that makes it great too, because you have your instructor and you realize that, oh, look, they're human, just like me.
Correct.
It's normal. It's not some guru,
Correct.
superhuman, and you have to strive to be that way. No, we're
Correct.
working with what we have. Yeah.
Correct. I don't know. There's an expression. Well, I know supposedly Buddha said, if you see a Buddha, kill the Buddha. Because the idea is like, don't have one thing to worship and
Mm-hmm.
move toward. It's like have your own experience and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we gotta watch out for people who say, like, I have all the answers and this
Mm-hmm.
is the correct way and the only way. Just be wary of that stuff, even though refined yoga is the correct way and the only way.
I mean, I can't disagree. Sorry.
No, that's not true.
It
It's,
just,
go ahead.
I think it just because it is safe for everybody. That's where I think this might be coming from, that I have that opinion, just because even the guy who did traditional yoga for 50 years and can bend in like a pretzel, it's still beneficial. It's still beneficial.
Hmm.
It's beneficial and it is safe. I mean, that's, to me, it's a magic sandwich right there. Yeah.
A magic sandwich without the bread because we can't eat carbs. That's a rule, right? We
Exactly.
can never eat carbs ever. Oh, Lord.
Yes. We make it out of water because then it's gluten-free and vegan and non-GMO and organic. Yeah, I know all the things, right?
Well, I appreciate the compliment. And that's the truth is that was the goal from day one, is to make it accessible to almost everyone. I can't say, I mean, just even statistically, there are anomalies and there are just going to be some
Mm-hmm.
people we can't help. Unfortunately, we had a woman who suffered from dementia,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to attend the class, and her husband, this is when we had our yoga studio,
Mm-hmm.
and her husband would bring her and she would show up and she would try, but she, it just, it was outside the scope of how we could help.
Right.
So I would love to believe that every single person can benefit, but statistically that's impossible. But
Mm.
we have most everyone in mind, and that's how the method came to be. We assume nothing. When someone logs in and they watch a video, vicariously through the video, I'm assuming this person knows nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That way we don't miss any steps. When they click on a beginner's class, by golly, it's a beginner's class for real.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to be taught like a beginner, step 1 through step 5, on to the next pose, step 1 through step whatever. And then as you become more and more familiar, if you want to progress, you go to intermediate level because you have that foundation. Now you can progress.
Yeah.
And you can progress from that into what's called power yoga. And you can progress from that into what's called yoga strength.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a path where you start with the essentials and you gradually build if you want to. I've got clients, I've got students who have been beginners for a decade. They're content. They get plenty of practice. They get plenty of benefit just from being a beginner for a decade. And I have
Yeah.
clients who, in my opinion, they do the smart thing. They cycle. So they can do power yoga pretty easily, but they'll still ramp it down. They'll do beginners.
Hmm.
They'll bring what they learned from power into beginners, and they bring those fundamentals from beginners back into power. So they create
Hmm.
this sort of feedback loop where they're just constantly getting better and they're constantly integrating and learning new things. It's incredible.
Right. Speaking on a more practical level, I have a hard time seeing how some of the traditional yoga poses are helping me in my everyday movement versus when we do functional yoga, it's very clear for me to see. How does this, d- am I correct? Do you see the same thing?
Yes, and that's where the functional part comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we have in functional yoga, we have what's called the rearward shift. And the rearward shift essentially is a deadlift exercise, but without weights.
Uh-huh.
So we learn how to position our bodies in a way that we use our hips, our core, and our legs in order to move. This is how toddlers move. Toddlers move this way. They were never trained. But if you've ever seen a toddler will stand up, wobble around. If they lose their balance, what happens? Their knees go soft, their head stays up, and they push their butt back. And then they stand up. They're moving from their hips. If a
Mm-hmm.
toddler is wobbling around, they see something on the floor, what do? If they see something they want to pick up or touch, they soften their knees, keep their head up, push their butt back, pull that object closer to them, and stand up. So we have that built in our DNA, but we lose that pattern because most of us are sitting all the time.
Yeah.
And my friend said, he said something like, if you're not building a roof or building a fence, that means you're sitting too much.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the sedentary lifestyle, our brain is very efficient. It's use it or lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So we start to lose the ability to use our hips. And then what happens is we start to rely on other parts of our body. It's called a compensation mechanism. So we'll flex our spine or bend our knees too much, or something is trying to take over for what our hips used to do. Now with functional yoga instruction, that's like our bread and butter is getting our hips to come back to life. And so that rearward shift, that deadlift position, once we start to rewire it and program it, suddenly when we're doing the emptying the dishwasher, chest up, butt back, grab those dishes, stand up, put them away.
Mm-hmm.
But in a conventional yoga class, chair pose, I don't know how chair pose applies to life.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a fancy way to change a light bulb, but chair pose, I mean, to me, that there's no programming or patterning in chair pose unless you're
Mm-hmm.
going to hold your infant up to the sky like Lion King. You know what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about?
Mm-hmm.
When the monkey holds up the baby lion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Same thing with some of the other positions. And this is what I hear a lot from our students and our clients. The stuff they learn on the mat carries over to when they're doing stuff off of the mat. Even the way we teach triangle pose has a carryover effect. Reaching for that light switch to turn it off, you find yourself in this sort of triangle pose position, but you're stable and you hit that switch or you shut that cabinet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's answering your question, that we select positions specifically for their carryover into the real world, not just something that's arbitrary and Instagram worthy. And I'm reminded, I was complimenting an instructor one day and I said, "Oh, what you're doing for the feet in your class, that's really good for the feet." And I asked, "Why do you teach it in that sequence?" And they said, oh, I don't know. I just got it off of YouTube and I started teaching it. So that's fine. It's not evil or bad or wrong. Maybe they got lucky with that one sequence, but if you ask your yoga teacher something, your yoga teacher something, they should be able to answer you. We do it this way because we have to prime your nervous system on the ball of your foot so we can activate the anterior tibialis, which is the set of muscles that helps you stop suddenly. So we're training ourselves to stop suddenly so we don't step on a Lego block or so we don't step off a cliff. You stop suddenly. We're also helping to stretch the toes and the feet so we avoid plantar fasciitis. You should get an answer like that instead of, oh, I saw it on Instagram and just thought we'd try it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do it whenever I pick up the laundry basket is always my best example. Because I don't know how everybody else is doing it, but my laundry basket is on the ground in front of the dryer. I take everything out. Now it's getting heavy. Now I have to pick it up off the floor. And that's where my, rearward shift comes in. So I don't pull my back muscle or whatever, have a slip disc when I'm done.
Correct. And most people, they will lock their legs straight and round their back and then pick up the laundry basket that way, or they'll push their knees really, really super forward and then round their back and then stand up that way. Neither of those, I should say, are particularly bad or wrong. But if you're not conditioned for it, it's one of those things that you can do 100 times correctly. And then that 101st time you strain your back and it's a mystery. It's like, what did I do? It's very rarely the one time you did one thing. It's usually the 1,000th time you've done that one thing. And your body's like, okay, that's it. I gave you 1,000 chances to fix it. You just didn't listen. So now tweaked back, slipped rib, or whatever else.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what we were talking about very, very, very early on is just the alignment in the muscles. It's key.
Yeah. Of all the times I threw my back out, I never have a cool story. Sorry. It's the first time was folding laundry. And I think the second time was sneezing or coughing, one or the other. So it's, sorry. I didn't pick up a really heavy barbell or so. No, it was sneezing.
You weren't jumping from tree to tree.
No.
Yeah, that's how it is for most of us average people. It's not because we were competing in the Olympics. It's because we picked up the groceries wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the good news is the more and more resilient you become, you can recover from those tweaks quicker. And I believe that the methods at Redefined Yoga help to build that resilience. And you just keep making those deposits in your resilience bank. And then the one day you need it, you'll have it.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I know we've been talking for an hour, but this is really important to me personally, because I work with you. You are so well versed in the human anatomy that like what you just said, when we do a certain pose, you know why we do the pose and what is the goal of the pose. And when you give us students feedback on this muscle should now fire, and I feel, oh, it's not, it's something else is firing up, then I know, now you gave me a feedback loop, because now I know, why is the glute not firing when it should, and instead my quads are firing? So now I can work on, okay, I'm going to tell Brian, and then Brian is going to probably tell me how to correct that and how to make sure that when I do it a couple of more times, I will eventually get there that the correct muscle is firing, which directly translate to posture, how I walk, how everything works in alignment with each other. And I have never had that before, not even in physical therapy, which is kind of scary if you think about it. So that is, to me personally, a huge seller for your program, because I need to know how my body is supposed to respond with pose XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't do that, I need to get there,
Or at least try, right?
or at least try.
So there's that try. And so thank you for that. I appreciate that compliment. It means a lot. And that was what you're talking about, that sort of kinesiological, anatomical thing. That's what saved me
Mm-hmm.
and my back, because once I started to understand, well, this 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 could actually probably go on for another 4.5 hours, but I'll try to I'll try to be quick. It's simple, but not easy. So the simple thing is, once you start to understand what is supposed to do what, then you can work with it. And I'll try my best to explain. So back pain, what do you do with that? Your back hurts.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? It's a good question. Well, number one, go get checked out, because you got to make sure that your back pain is not a weird symptom of level 4 pancreatic cancer, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So you got to make sure that it's not something, what's the word, pathological.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to make sure it's something that's not catastrophic. So if a lawnmower engine dropped on your spine, that's a pretty good indicator why your spine hurts, right? So it's
Right.
catastrophic. You fell off your bike and landed on a fire hydrant and your spine broke in half. Okay, that's pretty clear. Unfortunately, if you've got cancer or something, that's also clear. So the first thing you got to do is figure out what's going on. The good news is, at least according to Kelly Starrett, circa 2007, I think it was Jacobson, the pathological and the catastrophic categories are pretty narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us have a good chance of fixing most things by ourselves, at least without surgical intervention or something like that. So step one, figure out what the heck's going on. For me, back in those days, how many times have I said that? I couldn't look it up on YouTube and stuff like that. So I would go to bookstores and I would just stand. I don't remember if it was self-help or exercise or something. And I would just stand and look at the spines of the books, and it would say back pain manual or something. And so I would read it. It didn't seem to fit me, put it back, read, scan it, read it. And I would try to find something that described what was happening. So eventually I figured it out. It was my quadratus lumborum. And then once I understood what a quadratus lumborum is supposed to do, what it is, what it's supposed to do, et cetera, then I could gradually break it down and start to work with it. I started to understand that I was not flexion tolerant, and I started to understand all these different things. So once you understand, then you can start to build.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I understood I shouldn't be flexing my spine, I understood I had to start using my hips. So instead of compensating through my spine or through my knees, I had to be able to push my butt back but keep my chest up.
Uh-huh.
It just goes all the way back to the way we moved as toddlers.
Yeah.
So it's just so crazy how something so fundamental gets lost.
Yeah.
And then we get caught in this hamster wheel of my back hurts, pills, cortisone injections, maybe surgery, et cetera, when it could be something as just simple as getting into a better habit with patterning, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, when I help other people just have I don't want to, I've got a pretty good understanding of what's going on. So if someone comes to me and they say, my shoulder hurts, the first thing I ask is, have you had a scan? And this is what I hope. If there's one yoga teacher listening or one yoga instructor listening, I hope that yoga instructor or yoga teacher will have that person who's standing in front of them to go get scanned, to go get checked
Mm-hmm.
out. Because people will go to yoga teachers and say, my shoulder hurts, what's a good stretch?
Mm.
There's a really good chance your yoga teacher has no idea. And it's not their fault. They are trained, hopefully, to get you through a class beginning to end. They are not trained to help you fix your shoulder. Most yoga teachers, that's not what they get certified in. So I hope most yoga teachers will say, you know what? You need to see a physical therapist because
Yeah.
I can show you a stretch for your shoulder, but it might make it worse. And it might, because you don't know if you need to be stretched or strengthened. You don't know
Yeah.
if it's a neck issue that's referring to the shoulder. You don't know if it's a posture issue, which could be related to the feet. So I know all that stuff now just because of what's been going on with me, and I can see it in other people. But it's always, my shoulder hurts. Okay, have you had it checked out? Start there. If it hasn't been checked out, get it checked out. If you're clear for physical activity, come back and see me, and we can try a few things and see if it helps.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did that answer the question?
It does.
Okay. Okay.
It does. It does.
And
I
so,
actually didn't ask you a question. I made a statement.
well, does that validate your statement?
It does.
And
It
it's
does.
because of that sort of stuff. That's where the functional yoga instruction comes from. Is let's get the right muscles to do the right things so we can avoid the compensation mechanisms which are causing the inflammation and the pain. So if we can break that cycle of pain, malfunction, and asymmetry, we just take one of those things out, in theory, we should start to function better, less inflammation, less pain, and more balance through the whole body.
Yeah. I recommend you to everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Just because, again, it is the safest option that I know of to gain. I don't even want to say stretching or flexibility. I want to say movement, range of movement in a safe way without doing the, overly bendy stuff that is, for example, for me would be completely horrific. I would probably dislocate something. And it's just what we do at functional yoga, at Redefined Yoga, is I know that's not going to happen to me. So
If you follow the instructions, it won't happen to you.
correct.
Right? And that's why we're there, is to remind you. Keep the shoulders down. Keep your arms toned. Micro bend if you need to, so you don't hyperextend, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I'll be honest, when I first started with you back in the brick and mortar studio, I had to unlearn all the Instagram stuff.
Yeah.
I thought like, oh, I can go deeper. Oh yeah, I can. Oh, that's easy. I can go deeper. That's no problem. And now I know just because you can might not be the best idea either. So you need to listen to what the instructor tells you, what the teacher tells you. That is, we're not going to put the flat hand on the ground or whatever,
Right.
So yeah, I needed to. Now I know. Now I don't do these things anymore, but it is a little bit of a conditioning programming thing going on when you come from that traditional scene to be extra, I guess. Want to be extra.
It can be very ego smashing as well. And I've seen it. I wouldn't do it deliberately, but someone is standing in front of me and they are not following my instructions. My instructions are there for a reason. They are not arbitrary. I'm not standing in front of the camera, or depending on a workshop or a live event, I'm not standing and just saying stuff. I'm looking at everything going on around me and offering corrections. So I'm not going to be impressed that you can grab your ankles and pull your face between your shins. Who cares? That's not going to help with anything at all. Zero. It's not going to help with anything. So that person who shows up and I say, okay, good, but come up out of it, put your hands on your knees, lift your head up and push your butt back. For them, it's like just putting on the brakes all of a sudden. It's like, whoa, hold on. Wow. Usually I get a pat on the back for doing that.
Mhm.
And now I've just been corrected. I'm never coming back to this place ever again.
Mhm.
Or there have been rare occasions where someone says, I get it and I
Mhm.
love it. Thank you. My back feels so much better. My hamstrings feel so much better because I get what you're doing. It happens from
Yeah.
time to time.
Yeah. I
Amazing.
I remember doing the functional yoga instruction training,
Hmm.
teacher training, and there was a bunch of ladies there that were the 400 plus hours yoga teachers, hardcore traditional yoga scene. They did not finish. They did not finish. It started with tree pose.
Mm.
Everybody put their heel all the way towards their like almost into the pubic bone.
Hmm.
And back then it was, Kathy said, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
And it was, first of all, it was hard for them to not do that and to
correct.
actually keep their balance, because now we're taking the this is a crutch, essentially.
Correct.
And then it was a mindset thing.
Correct.
It was a, well, what is this kind
Correct.
of thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's part of the BS that I saw. And you even mentioned it earlier, the BS in the culture of like just that sort of competitiveness. So what it is yoga is it's supposed to be mind body union, and you're supposed to be
Hmm.
open to things, right? You're not, you're supposed to at least consider things. You're supposed to open up and be mindful and considerate and speculative. But really, what happens a lot, maybe not every single person, is it just becomes, I'm right, you're wrong.
Mm.
This is how I do yoga. I'm going to come to your live event or I'm going to watch you online. Oh, but what you're doing is different. It's
Hmm.
cognitive, oh, what's it called? Cognitive something distortion. Is that what it's called? Cognitive distortion. Your listeners can correct me. But it's what you believe versus what's
Hmm.
real. Cognitive dissonance is what it is. And it makes you step back. Your brain starts to shut down. It's like, hold on. I do tree pose with my heel touching my pubic bone and my hands in prayer. Now I'm being told to slide my foot down onto my calf, use my glutes, and actually start using my muscles for better stability, core stability, and low back stability. But now I can't balance.
Hmm.
Uh-oh. So what do you do?
Hmm. Hmm.
Do you say, okay, you know what? I'm open to something new and let me try, because clearly keeping my glutes active, keeping my core active, keeping my leg active, keeping my feet active, that's going to carry over to higher functional ability, less plantar fasciitis, less back issues, less knee issues, less bladder leaking issues.
Hmm.
Or are you going to say, F this? I'm putting my heel onto my pubic bone because this is how you're supposed to do it, and this is how I do it.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people get caught up in the latter. They're like, no,
Yeah.
this. And it's okay. I mean, that's fine. It's
And
fine.
as far as I can see, I'm not an athlete in every sport, but I see that in a lot of different sports too. You have these extremes that people think this is what it's supposed to be, and then somebody promoted this at some point, and people just ran with it. It's the same
Hmm.
thing in CrossFit. You can do CrossFit without throwing up. Guess what? Amazing, right? But some people just think that, oh, then it wasn't a good workout, or
Oh boy.
same with jujitsu. People come in and have an ego, or it's just sometimes we just all need to be humbled.
Well,
you know?
there's an expression I wish I could remember. It's like something like when you walk into a boxing gym, keep your chin down.
Mm-hmm.
Because in boxing, rule is to keep your chin down so you don't get knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you walk into a boxing gym, you're keeping your chin down because you're staying humble. Because if an
Mhm.
experienced fighter sees you with your chin up, they're just going to come and knock you out.
Mhm.
So it's what you're saying is just that humility. Keep your chin down. Walk in whatever it is. Is this your first piano lesson? Keep your chin down. Be humble.
Yeah.
Believe me, when I walk into someone's yoga class, if I ever take someone's yoga class or whatever it is, if I take someone's fitness class or if I attend someone's workshop or something, I am humble. My mouth is closed, my ears are open, and I'm taking it all in. I'm there to learn. I'm not there to let everyone know how much I know.
Right.
I'm there to learn. That's my role, is to be there and learn. So I think maybe we need a little more of that in the world.
Mhm.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, I think we all need it every once in a while
Keep
just
your
to
chin
get
down.
rechecked, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without getting
Yeah.
knocked out for having your chin up.
Right? In
Yeah.
a gentle way. In a gentle
Yeah.
way.
Kind and loving, gentle way.
This was great,
Oh,
Brian.
thank you.
I think we didn't even go through half the questions we had on
Okay.
our nifty sheet,
Understood.
but I think that we touched on actually almost everything just by
Okay.
keeping the conversation going. So
Great.
I mean, it's an hour and a half. This was great.
Okay, great.
But yeah, I could do this for another 3 just because there's so much.
I know. It's what is it? It's an inch wide but a mile deep.
Yeah. It's
Amazing.
the iceberg. We just started on the tip.
That's true. That's true. Amazing.
Well, I'm going to link everything in the show notes, and actually on the YouTube video, I can link your YouTube channel as
Okay,
well,
great.
which I love your YouTube channel because it gives a little bit of a taste on what this is all about. And then redefinedyoga.com, obviously, right?
Please. Yep, and thank you.
Yeah. I love it. I love the program. I really know when I don't show up on a regular base, I can feel my pains and tweaks and whatnot. And as soon as I get back into I mean, it is a lifelong practice
Hmm.
to keep everything where it's supposed to be realigned because, I mean, I'm going to be 42 in about, I don't know, I can't do math right now, in March. So having at least almost 4 decades of bad alignment, right? But now I'm to the point where just after a little bit of redefined yoga, I walk normal. I don't need insoles anymore.
Yay.
I don't need corrective shoes actually anymore. And I have a huge difference between body awareness pre-redefined yoga and now. So I highly recommend it.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And we appreciate you and we appreciate you spreading the word and being a part of our community. It really means a lot. And I hope your listeners get something from this and we'd love to have them join us. We are here to help. We're not, that's really just it. We're here to help. We're not here to cheat anyone or mislead anyone. We're just 2 honest people trying to make an honest living, delivering an honest product that will hopefully help you slow down, stop, and reverse some of those nagging aches and pains and just get you the quality of life that you deserve.
Yeah, 100%. It's possible for everybody. Almost everybody, I would say. Yeah, yeah.
There's always an anomaly. So we try to say almost everyone, although, everyone, almost everyone.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Amazing. Well, thanks again.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, everybody, or watching. And every Monday, new episode. Like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the things. And I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, a review, and share it with somebody you think needs this. Have a fabulous day. See you next time.